Hiya guys, and welcome to my new video series, Ricky Moore on Tour. Now this is not your normal video series from a bodybuilder where some boring cunt with a monotone voice stands in his kitchen talking about how much chicken he's eating. Nah, none of that for me, pal. Once a month, I'm going to be traveling around the country to meet up with some well-known names from the bodybuilding, fitness and entertainment industry. We're going to train, we're going to chat, and we're going to have some fun. For my first episode, I'm very excited to be down in London, one of my favourite cities in the world, to meet my good friend, Mr. James Crossley, who you guys might know better as Hunter from Gladiators, one of the most popular TV shows back in the 1990s. Okay, we're going to go head down and meet James now. We're going to go down to King's Gym, we're going to train some chest and delts, and then after we've trained, we're going to sit, we're going to chew the fat, and we're going to find out what it was like to be part of one of the most biggest TV shows of a generation. And then we're going to also find out what the big man is up to nowadays. Let's go. Okay guys, so we just got back from King's Gym. We just smashed an absolutely awesome chest and shoulder workout. Big Jimmy put me through the paces, as he always does. Nobody pushes me harder than this lad. Okay, so for those who are over 30, you'll all know who James is. James was Hunter in the biggest show back in the 90s, Gladiators. James was one of the most popular gladiators. He was definitely the most handsome gladiator.
Nice to see you, Ricky. What an introduction. Where do I go from there?
So we're going to ask James a few questions. Okay, so first question, what did it feel like to go from being a normal 19-year-old bodybuilder to being one of the biggest faces of the biggest TV shows in the country, literally overnight?
Well, the tricky thing was really going from bodybuilder to athlete.
Yeah.
And you can imagine all I'd done is lift weights and tense my muscles since I was 12 years old. I mean, suddenly like, we want you to climb a wall, we want you to swing on rings, we want to do this.
Yeah.
So that was a tricky transition. So I really had to change my training program and my approach to fitness to become an athlete rather than a bodybuilder. But what I did, I found a motor skill and a different movement pattern that would resemble the games.
Yeah.
So for Atmospheres, I'd push a car around a car park. I joined a climbing wall. I was boxing with my feet tied together. I started playing squash.
Oh, wow.
So these were all relevant to games like Powerball, to Duel, to the Wall. As far as the fame side, it wasn't really instant. It kind of dribbled in because we filmed the show and then it wasn't on telly for 6 months.
Right.
And then you were on every Saturday, and so people were getting used to you. So actually it took a couple of years before it really became like, wow, I now really know what it's like to kind of be on telly. And obviously then, there was only 4 channels.
Yeah.
So there wasn't all these other outlets for people to stream, for people to watch Netflix, Amazon. So it was like a massive show, 18 million viewers. So it did get to a point after 2 or 3 years where it was like, oh, okay, going to a restaurant or getting on a train became a bit tricky. But I think because it wasn't instant, I kind of got used to it over a steady amount of time. Yeah, it wasn't quite overnight.
But back in the day, in the 90s, literally, for those people who remember, you'll know how big Gladiators was. It was literally, it was the biggest thing. Probably along with Baywatch. Everyone tuned in every Saturday night to watch it.
Well, that was the Saturday night, wasn't it? It was Baywatch, Blind Date, Gladiators, out.
Yeah, it was.
That was kind of
everybody, literally the whole country watched this show. Question number 2. How did you become so handsome? No, that's not the question. So once the show was finished, okay, and you'd had these years of being famous and, you know, everybody knowing who you are, and it was like, you know, you got the table laid out for you in every restaurant and bar that you went in. But what did it feel like once the show finished?
So, I mean, I think the big key here is the word purpose. And it's like when you've had a sole purpose to be an amazing gladiator and to train to do all these games, which in everyday life are pointless. So I kind of finished the show and I was great at climbing a wall or great at hitting people with sticks, but what are you going to do with that in the real world? So I had to kind of think and say, right, what do I enjoy? What can I turn into a passion and do differently? And I actually retrained to become an actor, and I went to school again. I did 2 years in acting school, and then I started touring theatre and touring plays. And I think because Gladiators was such a big show, it wasn't really overnight where people were like, you lost that kind of inkling of being famous, if you like.
Yeah, it was for years.
It was for years afterwards.
Yeah.
But what was a difficult transition was having a job that was suddenly gone.
Yeah.
And the great thing about Gladiators was the variety it gave you. The filming was all done in 2.5, 3 weeks, and then we go all over the world.
One thing I want to know about, for those who don't know, James is now 50. Okay, you wouldn't believe it. He looks amazing, and he's still in absolutely amazing shape. We train together all the time, and this guy's still an absolute machine. What does your training look like nowadays in comparison to when you were younger?
So I think as an aging body, you have to be very mindful about rest. And I think it's very easy to overtrain. So what I found is training less is very important. So I train shorter workouts. I probably do 45, 50 minutes. I don't do masses of weights.
Yeah.
I do kind of a push day, a pull day, and a leg day. And then I add a few other things. I do a little bit of boxing, a little bit of fitness. As you can see, I built a gym during lockdown. This was kind of where I was training for 2 years, pretty much.
Hunter's Gym?
Hunter's Gym, yeah. So this was a garden initially, and then I had all the neighbours coming round. But yeah, so I kind of keep it varied. I think I'm very mindful of rest. I listen to my body a lot more.
Yeah.
When you get those signs that you say your biceps are about to tear, that you
Pull
ignore,
back a little bit.
I just pull back.
Yeah.
The knee is gonna, then I just pull back, and I just kind of I'm very, very mindful of plenty of sleep, good eating, and keeping moving, because the thing is, it's very easy to lose the flow, and if you don't have the accountability and you don't have the consistency, that's when it all falls apart. I love it. It's not just about the physical side of things, it's about the mental health side of things that I really like to keep moving and be active.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a non-negotiable for me. I think if you keep active and keep physical as a non-negotiable, you clean with your nutrition as a non-negotiable, but still enjoy life to a degree. Maybe I don't enjoy it as much as you.
Yeah, so you gotta live your life. You gotta live your life.
But I do enjoy it, and I try and keep a level of balance. I think when you've been a bodybuilder to the level that we have, the balance is always slightly off.
Yes,
everything's never really what one would call a balanced life.
You're never going to have a normal life.
No, but it's normal for me.
Yeah. What about stretching and mobility? You seem to always be quite flexible and quite, you always seem to be good at that sort of thing.
So I think Gladiators got me into flexibility.
Yeah.
I started yoga to climb the wall initially, because if you imagine you're climbing a wall, the higher you get your leg, the easier it is.
Yeah.
So I've done yoga for years. I don't do so much now stretching, but I always do a mobility warm-up before every lower body workout. And I always try and do some kind of flexibility that's within a session. Like if I'm doing boxing, it's tied into it. So I used to do a lot of yoga, but I actually got quite a few back problems, and I think because I was doing extreme yoga.
Yeah.
And also I think anybody who does yoga, who's our body type, traditional yoga isn't really suited to us. There are certain postures which don't work when you're so tight in certain areas.
Got too much muscle in certain areas.
Exactly.
Yeah. Have you got any advice for any guy or any woman out there who's over 40 now, who's just started out the fitness journey and they really want to get in shape? What advice would you give that person?
First of all, I think if you have a baseline, this is really important. If you don't have a baseline, you haven't got a starting point. So if someone's wanting to get in shape, maybe taking before and after photos, taking measurements, taking their weight, and that's a baseline. Secondly, set some goals. It's really important to have that goal. That's what keeps the fire burning.
Like booking a holiday or something like that?
It's got to be high stakes to you.
Yeah.
So high stakes to you might be booking a holiday.
Yeah.
It might be doing a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Or running a marathon. It doesn't have to be body related, but you have to have something that's going to keep you motivated.
Something to work towards. You've been ultimate gladiator, bodybuilder, strongman, actor. What is James Hunter Crossley up to nowadays at 50 years old?
So I've always been quite musical, and I think like 5 or 6 years ago, I went to a sound bath, which is a meditation to sound.
Yeah.
And it was quite transformational for my sleep. I've never been a great sleeper. So I went to the College of Sound. I studied sound therapy, I studied gongs and different instruments. And then when I finished that, I was kind of carting gongs all over London. It was like, this is a bit of a nightmare. But then I realized there was very few qualifications for this.
Yeah.
So I opened a teacher training school for therapists. So I wrote a book, got it certified, got the course certified. So I now run a teacher training school for people that want to become sound therapists.
That's amazing. So from ultimate gladiator to gong bath and sound bath teacher.
Yeah.
Awesome. Love it. That's a wrap. Anything you'd like to add, James?
No, I think just don't be afraid of reinventing yourself. I think that's really important. I think, as a former bodybuilder, it was very hard for me to move away from bodybuilding or body style stuff, but as life changes, or as you physically change, sometimes you've got to start again.
Yeah.
And I'd never played a handpan before. I'd never played a gong before. Yeah. But I found a passion for it, and then I just was all in, because you have that mentality as an ex-bodybuilder or to go for it, don't you?
Yeah.
To put the hours in.
Whatever you're going to do, you're going to give it 100%.
Yeah, so I think just, don't be afraid of reinventing, because you can definitely do it if you put the hours in.
Love that. Love that. Right, thanks for watching, guys. This is James Crossley, Hunter, the world's most handsome gladiator. Awesome, love it. Okay, guys, well, that's a wrap for episode 1 of Ricky Moore on tour down here in London. I hope you've enjoyed it. Stay tuned for episode 2 coming next month.